to be perfectly fair, it's hilarious that you're accusing me of being careless in my description of an audit when I was actually quite careful to go out of my way to say that I was not describing what the government was doing as an ISO audit, that I wasn't getting into the specifics of what an ISO audit actually entails or what an ISO management system actually entails. I didn't talk about PDCA cycles or aspect and impact registers or root cause analyses. I didn't get into any of that stuff because I didn't want to get stuck in the weeds in that 10-minute video that I was putting together. What I did do, and what I was very specific to point out that I was doing, was talking about the fundamental concepts that are applicable to all audits. And that's transparency, a defined scope and a plan, clear communication to the stakeholders and the people being audited, and a reporting process, and a defined reporting process, and methodology described prior to starting the audit. The idea that you don't change things in the processes while you're doing the audit. And those things remain the case. So like, you did not address any of those core points. You're trying to dress this up as some sort of like hybrid fucking audit. A financial statement audit and an ISO audit and an internal audit. I don't know where you even get the idea that that's what's happening. Start there. But even if that were the case, it's a fucking Frankenstein's monster made up entirely of fucking legs, dude. Like, it's not those things. And what I mean by that is, like, even if we have things that are included in all of those processes, we don't have all of the fundamental concepts that are shared among those processes that make them audits. Okay? During all those processes, you write things down. You document things. Okay? But just documenting doesn't mean that you have an audit. Okay? And every single one of those audits that you mentioned include those basic principles that I described. You have a defined scope, you have methodology, you have a reporting process, you have stakeholder engagement, and you plan it before you start it. And you don't change things while you're auditing. That all stays the same for all those different processes that you described. So if this is some sort of a hybrid model, which I think is ridiculous, it still doesn't add up to an audit. You know what I mean? It's a Frankenstein's monster made out of legs. It's a car made entirely out of fucking tires. It's a ridiculous claim. But I think the most important thing here is the last point that you made in your second comment, where you said that, we can't evaluate what's going on because we don't have enough information. That's not a defense. That is the indictment, dude. Like, that's the problem. And not only is that a problem, that's how you know we don't have an audit. Okay, if we had an audit going on, and I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive here, we would know the process. We don't have a process to look at, we don't have an audit. Period. End of story. That's it. If it is not defined and it is not planned, and there is not a methodology outlined prior to the audit starting, then you don't have an audit. So none of us have seen it, me or any of the 15 people that are in this room with me right now. There aren't 15 people in here. It is Valentine's Day though, so maybe there'll be 15 people in here later. But none of us have this process in front of us. Okay, and before you say anything about why did we get that information? And I'm not saying that you necessarily believe that, but I just want to head that argument off. First of all, I'll just address that straight on. We should have that information. We as the taxpayer and as the American people and as supposedly who this audit is supposed to be benefiting, we should know the process. But even if that weren't the case, even if you could somehow justify the secrecy around that, which I do not believe that you can, the agencies being audited would have that information, and it would have eventually been made available to us. We would have seen that already. Someone would have leaked that information. It doesn't exist. There's no process to it. These agencies aren't even being notified that they're going to be audited most of the time, it seems like. Some fucking 12-year-olds show up with jump drives and plug on in and take a bunch of information and start slashing jobs and slashing programs that Elon Musk doesn't like. It's all unilateral, and it is not systematic. It's not there's no methodology to it, and it's not an audit. It's just not an audit. That's the bottom line. We can stop calling it an audit because it's not one. The fact that there's no process to review nullifies the claim that it's an audit, and there's just no defense of that. So I don't know. I don't know how you can say that I'm the one being careless about this. I'm not being careless about it. I was pretty thorough in my discussion of it, and I was pretty straightforward about what I was saying and what I was not saying about this audit. Frankly, you are being careless by running point for Elon Musk and trying to lend some air of legitimacy to what he's doing. What he's doing is not an audit. He is gutting the federal government under the auspices of governmental oversight. These programs and departments that are in place or that exist ostensibly exist for a reason. And just because Elon Musk looks at it and goes, well, that's stupid, doesn't mean that it is, okay? Elon Musk is one person. We have a massive government that's supposed to serve the needs of 340 million people, okay? And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of government. It takes a lot of bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is not in and of itself bad, okay? It takes work to administer these programs. And these programs serve the American people, and every single American person deserves to have a government that's accountable to them and that works to make their lives better, okay? And so, yes, you might look at a program and be like, wow, I can't believe we're spending money on that. How many people is that actually helping? Well, you know what? It's helping those people. So we have elected officials for a reason, and we have a Congress for a reason. And the Congress represents smaller and smaller groups of people so that they can filter those needs up and into the federal bureaucracy in order to get those needs met. And so, sorry, if this program is only helping 50,000, 100,000, 500,000 people, but those are 500,000 people who also live in the United States and are citizens of this country and deserve to be taken care of and deserve to have a government that works for them. So this definition of what's like a waste of time or a waste of money or a waste of resources, frankly, it's Elon Musk's definition of it. But I think going through and gutting the federal government, I think that's a waste of resources. I think that shutting down all these programs that, are ultimately going to have to be restarted if we ever get a competent administration, I think that's a waste of resources. I think all of this bullshit audit is a waste of resources. Elon Musk's definition of what's a waste of resources is not the one that necessarily matters here.